Kidnap. Chapter 1. Tom lives in America, near the town of Harper. He is an artist, and he works at home. He is working on a comic strip.
How do the two friends escape?
Tom thinks.
They're running through some trees, and a man with a gun is running after them. I need a new idea. Maybe I need to go out,
Tom thinks. It's winter, and there's a lot of snow.
I can go to the bookstore in Harper,
Tom thinks.
It's warm in there. I need some coffee,
he thinks. He parks his car and goes into the bookstore. Tom goes to the coffee shop in the bookstore. Just then, Tom sees some white paper. The paper falls from a man's hand.
Wait,
Tom calls.
This is yours.
But the man doesn't hear him. Tom looks at the paper. It has a map on it. He puts the paper into his coat.
Maybe it's not important,
he thinks. He gets a cup of coffee and sits down at a table. Tom sees a woman with red hair at a table near him.
That's an interesting face,
he thinks.
I'd like to draw it, but I don't have any paper.
Then he remembers the man's map.
Oh, yes I do.
Tom finishes the picture of the woman. He's happy with it.
Maybe I can use this in a comic strip,
he thinks. Tom drinks his coffee and goes down into the bookstore. He looks out of the window and sees the woman from the coffee shop.
Is something wrong?
he thinks.
Why is she standing there in the street?
Tom goes out to the street.
Hi, are you okay?
Tom asks.
It's my car,
the woman says.
There's something wrong with it.
Tom wants to help the woman.
You need to call a tow truck,
he says.
They can come and get your car. Here's my cell phone.
What's that?
The woman asks when she sees Tom's picture.
It's a picture of you,
Tom says.
I'm an artist. I draw pictures for comic books. Oh, but there's a map.
Tom tells the woman about the men in the bookstore. They look at the map.
Look at this,
says Tom, and he reads from the map.
A and J.A. arrive at 12:30 p.m., maybe with bodyguard. Van waits here. H school. Car comes across road here. We get away with A in the van.
Chapter 2.
Only important or famous people have a bodyguard,
Tom says.
This is a plan. Those two men in the bookstore want to kidnap somebody. A. And look, it says H school. Maybe they want to kidnap a child.
The woman gives a little laugh.
Kidnap a child? You read a lot of comic books,
she says.
This isn't a comic strip. This is real life,
says Tom.
We must call the police.
Wait,
says the woman.
Can I see the map again? My name's Rita.
The woman says.
What's your name?
Tom.
He tells her.
Look, Tom, maybe we can find the school first. Then we can ask the teachers, do you have any famous children here? Before we call the police.
In Boston, a famous mother and her daughter leave their house. The mother is Jody Ann Ryan, the movie star. The girl is Anastasia. She is 13 years old.
Why are we going to your old school?
Anastasia asks her mother.
It's the winter holiday concert,
Jody Ann says.
The students are singing, and we must be there. They're singing for us.
Holiday concert? Oh no. Mom, I want to go home now.
Please, Anastasia, you must come with me. The students want to see you.
Jody Ann says.
Well, I don't want to see them. Holiday concerts are boring.
Anastasia says. Tom wants to call the police.
There are no street names on the map,
he says.
How can we find the school?
Maybe I know it.
Rita tells him.
Come on, Tom. We can take your car.
What about your car?
Tom asks.
Do you want to call the tow truck?
There isn't time.
Rita says.
And this is more important than my car. Go left at the next street.
Rita says.
What time is it?
Tom asks.
Almost 11:30.
Rita tells him.
Only an hour before the kidnap.
Tom says.
Are you sure about the school?
Almost sure.
Rita says.
Oh, there's ice on the road.
Tom says.
Be careful.
She says. Chapter 3. After 20 minutes, Tom says,
I need some gas. I can get some here.
Tom says.
Hurry.
Rita tells him.
There isn't much time.
What time is it?
Asks Tom again.
It's almost 12 o'clock.
Rita says. On a country road, the two men from the bookstore are looking at the map.
The school's not far from here, Joe.
The big man says.
Where's your map?
I don't know.
Joe says.
I'm worried, Max.
Joe says.
Where's the boss?
Listen, everything's okay.
Max tells him.
Think of all the money, Joe. Here, take my map, Joe. Drive down this road for 5 kilometers. There's a place to park on the right. Wait there and be ready to move quickly when you see the car. Remember, it's a long black car.
At the gas station, Tom pays for the gas.
Hi.
He says to the girl in the shop.
We're looking for a school near here.
Tom shows her the map.
Do you know this place?
He asks. The girl looks at the map.
I think...
She begins.
What?
Says Tom.
Do you know it?
Maybe it's Bridgewater, a little town about 3 kilometers from here.
She says.
Is there a school in Bridgewater?
Tom asks.
Oh, yes.
The girl says.
Hillside School.
Rita is waiting.
What's he doing?
She thinks. The girl shows Tom a magazine. There is a picture of a movie star on the front of the magazine.
Do you know this woman?
She asks.
Sure. It's Jody Ann Ryan,
Says Tom.
That's right.
The girl says.
She's an old Hillside student. And that's her daughter, Anastasia.
Anastasia?
Tom thinks.
A for Anastasia. They want to kidnap Jody Ann Ryan's daughter.
Chapter 4. Rita sees Tom. He's running to the car.
What's happening?
She thinks.
They want to kidnap Anastasia, Jody Ann Ryan's daughter.
Tom says.
Jody Ann Ryan, the movie star?
Says Rita.
Are you kidding?
We must call the police now.
Tom says.
Oh no, my cell phone's dead.
Tom says.
Do you have a cell phone?
No.
Rita says.
I know. Let's call from the shop. You stay here and be ready to drive to the school.
Rita runs to the shop.
Hurry,
Tom says. Tom throws his phone into the back of the car. He sees Rita's coat. Then he sees something in her coat pocket.
What's this?
Tom says.
It's the map. She has it too. And she has a cell phone.
Tom says.
So, who is she calling now? Is it the police? Or...
He looks at the map.
No,
He thinks.
she's phoning the kidnappers. She's a kidnapper too.
Rita gets into the car. She has a gun in her hand.
You're...
Tom begins.
Drive.
She tells Tom.
Where are we going?
Tom asks.
Don't ask stupid questions, Mr. Smart Guy. Drive.
Rita says. She smiles, but it isn't a nice smile.
And when I say take a left, take a left.
Tom drives carefully in the snow.
Why do you want Jody Ann Ryan's daughter?
He asks Rita.
Anastasia?
Rita says.
We kidnap her. Then we ask Jody Ann for $3 million. She gives us the money, and we give her Anastasia.
The police...
Tom begins.
The police aren't coming.
Rita says, laughing.
But my friends are waiting for us.
After driving for 10 minutes, Tom stops behind a blue van.
Now we wait with Max.
Rita says.
Get out.
Hello, boss.
Max says to Rita. Chapter 5. Just then, a big black car comes down the road.
Here they come.
Rita says.
Almost there, Anastasia.
Jody Ann Ryan says.
My old school is down this road.
Oh, great.
Anastasia says.
And when can we go home?
Suddenly, everything happens.
Give me the girl!
Max shouts at Jody Ann.
No!
Screams the movie star.
No! Please don't take her!
Tom is in the back of the van. He can only watch.
Get in the van.
Rita tells the girl. Rita gets in the back too, and Joe closes the doors. Max hurries to the front of the van. Suddenly, Jody Ann's bodyguard takes a gun from under his coat.
Be careful, Joe!
Shouts Max. The bodyguard shoots at Joe and hits him. Joe screams,
My leg! Joe's hurt.
Max shouts to Rita.
Drive!
Rita tells him. Max drives away, fast. The bodyguard shoots. He can't stop the van.
Be careful, Max.
Rita shouts.
There's ice on the roads.
Tom and Anastasia sit in the back of the van. Anastasia is angry.
Be careful.
Says Tom quietly.
These people are dangerous.
Suddenly, the van skids on the ice and snow. It goes off the road and hits a tree with a crash. After a minute, Rita opens the back doors.
Max?
She shouts.
I can't get out!
Max shouts.
Get out!
Rita tells Tom and Anastasia. Tom gets out of the van and helps Anastasia.
Are you okay?
Tom asks.
Oh, sure.
Anastasia says. Chapter 6.
Max,
Rita shouts.
are you okay?
I can't move.
He tells her.
My legs! I can't move my legs!
Suddenly, Tom jumps on Rita. He knocks the gun from her hand.
Run!
He shouts to Anastasia. Tom runs after Anastasia.
I'm behind you.
He shouts.
Stop!
Rita shouts, and she gets her gun. Tom and Anastasia run through the trees. Rita has her gun again and runs after them. Then, Anastasia falls down in the snow.
Ow!
She cries. Tom helps Anastasia. Rita is getting closer and closer.
Stop!
She shouts.
Or I shoot!
Rita shoots at them, but she doesn't hit Tom or Anastasia.
Down here.
Tom tells Anastasia.
We can go across the river on the bridge.
Tom and Anastasia run across the bridge, but Rita is close behind them. Suddenly, Tom slips on the ice on the bridge. Tom falls into the river and begins to swim.
Go on!
He shouts to Anastasia. Rita stops on the bridge and gets ready to shoot Tom. Quickly, Anastasia gets some snow and makes a snowball. She throws the snowball at Rita and hits her on the head.
Ow!
Rita shouts. Rita falls into the river.
Help!
She screams.
Help me! I can't swim!
Tom gets out of the water and sees Rita in the river.
Come on!
Anastasia shouts.
But we can't leave her. She can't swim. We must help her.
Tom says.
Are you kidding? She wants to kill us. Come on!
Screams Anastasia.
Freeze!
Shouts a police officer. Suddenly, lots of police officers come running across the bridge. They get Rita out of the river, and they push Tom to the ground.
Wait!
Says Anastasia.
He's helping me. He's a good guy.
Okay. Let's go to a warmer place.
Says the police officer.
You can tell us everything there.
Wait a minute. I don't understand. Why are you here?
Anastasia asks the police officer.
You have a very good bodyguard. He's fast with his gun and with his cell phone. And when someone calls the police, we move fast too.
The police take Tom, Anastasia, and Rita back to their car.
You sure can throw well, Anastasia.
Tom says. Anastasia laughs.
I play baseball with the boys at my school.
She says.
I'm the pitcher.
Tom laughs too.
You're great,
he says. Back at home, Tom looks at his comic strip.
How do the friends escape? Easy. Now I know.
Thinks Tom.
Sometimes real life can give you great ideas for a comic strip.
He laughs.
The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Chapter 1. Let's go back into the past, far back, to the good old days of America. Tarrytown is a little village on the Hudson River. Not far away, there's a quiet valley. Sleepy Hollow is its name. People there tell many stories about magic and ghosts. The most important of these is the legend of a headless horseman. Ichabod Crane teaches the children in Sleepy Hollow. He's tall and thin, and he's got long arms, big hands and feet, a little head, and cold green eyes. The students in his school usually work well. When they don't, he hits them with a big stick. After school, he walks some of the younger schoolboys home. He likes seeing their beautiful older sisters and meeting their mothers and getting nice things to eat. Ichabod eats, sleeps, and lives with the families of his students. After a week in one house, he puts all his things into a little bag and moves to the next family. From time to time, he helps the men with their work on the farm. He always looks for easy things to do, here and there. At other times, he stays with the young children in the house, telling them stories or getting them to sleep. This makes their mothers very happy. In the evenings, Ichabod teaches singing to make some extra money. On Sundays, He directs his singers in the church. He feels very important then. Country women usually think teachers are interesting. Teachers know more than farmers. They speak better, and they like nice things, too. Ichabod can talk to young women very easily. The farmers' sons watch and listen, but they are afraid to speak in front of him. After school, Ichabod reads for hours about witches and black magic. Before he knows it, it's nighttime, and he can't see his book. When he walks home, all the little noises in the night make him feel afraid. Then he begins to sing, and this makes him feel brave again. Ichabod likes to listen to the old women of the village when they tell stories of ghosts and haunted houses. He loves the legend of the Headless Horseman. Ghost stories are exciting when he's sitting in a nice warm room, but they're frightening when he's walking home later on a cold, dark night. He often thinks that he hears the Headless Horseman not far behind him. Chapter 2. In the day, Ichabod forgets about ghosts and witches. The only thing he thinks about is Katrina Van Tassel. He's under her spell. The Van Tassels have the biggest farm in the valley. When Ichabod walks past, he always stops to look at its fields and its farmhouse. Who gets all this when her father Baltus dies? Katrina, of course. Katrina is Baltus Van Tassel's beautiful young daughter. She's 18 and an only child. Ichabod thinks a lot about the farmer's beautiful daughter. He knows he must make Katrina love him. A number of the farmer's sons like Katrina too. The most important of these young men is Brom Van Brunt. He's big and strong, and he's always ready for a fight or a laugh. When the other farmers' sons see Brom's horse in front of Van Tassel's farm in the evening, they know that Brom is visiting Katrina. But Ichabod doesn't lose hope. He begins visiting Van Tassel's farm every day to help Katrina with her singing. In the late afternoon, Baltus and Ichabod walk under the trees. Brom watches angrily, but nobody sees him. Brom and his friends begin to play tricks on Ichabod. When Ichabod teaches Katrina to sing, Brom teaches his dog to howl. At night, they move all the books and chairs in the school. In the morning, Ichabod arrives. He begins to think all the witches in the country meet in his school after nightfall. One afternoon, Baltus Van Tassel's servant arrives at the school door. He asks Ichabod to go to a party that evening at Van Tassel's farm. Ichabod can't wait.
You can leave school an hour early today.
He tells all the schoolboys. He runs back to his room and puts on his best black suit. He borrows a tired old horse for the night. The horse's name is Gunpowder, and he usually works in the fields. Chapter 3. It is early evening when Ichabod arrives at Van Tassel's farmhouse. All the farmers from the neighborhood are at the party with their families. When Brom arrives, everyone is happy to see him. Not Ichabod, of course. Brom's horse is big and strong. His name is Daredevil, and only Brom can ride him. Ichabod feels happy when he sees all the good things to eat and drink in the farmhouse. Then he sees Katrina talking with Brom, and he feels angry again. Someone begins playing music in the next room. Ichabod knows Katrina loves to dance. He smiles when he remembers Brom can't dance. Ichabod knows he sings well, and he also dances wonderfully. When the dancing finishes, people begin to talk about the ghosts in Sleepy Hollow. Brom tells the most exciting story.
Some nights, when I ride through the village, the headless horseman follows me.
He says.
When I get to the bridge in front of the old church,
Brom goes on.
The headless horseman always stops. His horse can't step onto the bridge, and the rider and horse disappear in a flash of fire.
Soon the party is over, and everybody begins to leave. Before Ichabod goes, he tells Katrina about his love for her. But something goes badly wrong. And soon Ichabod leaves Van Tassel's farmhouse quickly and quietly. Without looking left or right, he rides away through Sleepy Hollow. The night is very dark. Ichabod thinks about Katrina, and he feels terrible. Then he hears a noise. He looks back over his shoulder and sees something big, black, and frightening in the dark night behind him. He's very afraid. At first, he can't speak. In the end, he asks weakly,
Who are you?
The figure doesn't answer. Chapter 4. Then Ichabod slaps Gunpowder on the back, and the old horse gallops away. The ghost follows them on his big black horse. When Ichabod makes Gunpowder walk slowly, the ghost makes his horse walk slowly too. Usually, when Ichabod is afraid, he sings to feel braver. Now he opens his mouth, but no noise comes out. When Ichabod gets to a hill, he looks back. Now he can see the ghost is headless. The rider's head is on the saddle in front of him. At first, Ichabod is very afraid and can't move. Then he slaps and kicks Gunpowder and makes him gallop away again. and the headless horseman follows him. Soon, Ichabod sees the church and the bridge through the trees. He remembers Brahm's story. The ghost can't go across the bridge. Ichabod gallops across the bridge and looks back over his shoulder. The horseman takes his head in his hands and throws it at Ichabod. It knocks him down off his horse. Gunpowder and the headless horseman gallop away. The next morning, people find Gunpowder near his home. Nobody can find Ichabod. But they find his hat near the bridge, and they find a pumpkin in pieces near it. Soon after, Brahm marries Katrina. When people tell the story of Ichabod Crane, Brahm smiles. He laughs when they talk about the pumpkin near the bridge. To this day, sitting in front of the fire, people in Sleepy Hollow like to tell ghost stories. And everyone's favorite is the legend of Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman. Rip Van Winkle. Chapter 1. The Catskill Mountains change color at different times of the year. Many people think that they are magic mountains. It is 1769. In a village near the Catskills lives a friendly man. His name is Rip Van Winkle. The village children love him. Rip loves doing nothing all day. But when the men of the village ask Rip for help on their farms, he always goes and helps them. And when the women of the village ask Rip for help, he never says no. Rip is always ready to do his neighbor's work, but he never works on his farm. The Van Winkles have two wild children, Rip and Judith. Young Rip always wears his father's old clothes. Morning and night, Mrs. Van Winkle tells him that he is lazy. Rip never answers her. This makes her angrier. One day, Rip leaves his wife at the farm. He calls his dog Wolf, and they go for a walk in the mountains. In the late afternoon, Rip sits on one of the mountains. For a long time, he watches the beautiful Hudson River. Soon, the sky is dark. Rip's wife always gets angry when he comes home late, so he must leave now. When he goes down the mountain, Rip meets a stranger. The man has something on his back. The stranger isn't very tall. He's fat, his hair is wild, and he's wearing old Dutch clothes. He wants Rip to carry the barrel. Rip walks up the mountain with the man. Sometimes he carries the barrel to help him. The stranger says nothing. After a time, they meet a number of men in the mountains. They are all playing an old Dutch game and wearing old Dutch clothes. The man with the barrel gives them all a drink. Everything is quiet. Nobody smiles, and nobody speaks. When the men begin to play again, Rip has a drink. He feels thirsty, so he drinks more and more. Soon, Rip is tired. His eyes close, and he goes to sleep. Chapter 2. When Rip opens his eyes, it's a sunny morning.
"Oh no,"
He cries.
"My wife doesn't like me to sleep away from home."
Rip remembers his night on the mountain. He stands up, but finds he can't move very easily. And where's Wolf? In the village, some children laugh at him. The buildings, the people, and their clothes are all different. Rip feels afraid. He finds his house with no windows or door. And where are his wife and children? Rip doesn't understand. Just then, he puts his hand to his face and finds he has a long white beard. He runs to the village inn. Over the door, the picture of King George has new clothes and a new name, George Washington. Rip doesn't know any of the people in front of the inn.
"Does nobody here know Rip Van Winkle?"
He asks.
Yes, that's Rip Van Winkle next to the tree.
One man says. Rip sees a young man in his clothes.
"Is that me?"
He thinks. But before old Rip can speak to him, a young woman next to him says to her baby,
"Quiet, Rip."
He hears the baby's name and turns to her.
"What's your name?"
He asks.
"Judith."
She answers.
"And your father's name?"
"Rip Van Winkle."
She says.
"And where is he?"
"Nobody knows."
She says.
"After his walk into the mountains 20 years ago."
"And your mother?"
Rip asks.
"She's dead."
Judith says. Then Rip laughs.
"Oh, I'm your father!"
He cries.
"Young Rip Van Winkle then, old Rip Van Winkle now. Don't any of you know me?"
An old woman looks into Rip's face.
Yes, it is Rip Van Winkle.
She says.
After 20 years, welcome home, old friend."
Rip tells his story of the men in Dutch clothes and their strange game in the mountains. Some people think he's mad. But one old man cries,
I think old Rip's story is true. Every 20 years, they say, the ghost of the Dutch explorer, Henry Hudson, comes back with his men to the Catskills. Those strangers in old Dutch clothes were Hudson and his men.
So old Rip goes to live with Judith, and his son goes to work on the old farm, sometimes. And every day, without his wife there to tell him he's lazy, old Rip goes to the inn, has a drink, and tells his strange story to the visitors staying there.